Hello, seventh graders. Today you are going to be learning about probability. And so if you look at the top of your paper, this is a new unit for you guys. And when Mrs. Sparza gets back, you guys will be going into great depth over these lessons. But it is called probability. And so probability deals with chance. And a lot of times we learn by playing games or different things like that. So this is going to be a fun unit for you. Today I'm going to go over mainly vocabulary and I guess just an introduction to how probability works. So our title today is called Sample Space. And I want you to fill in the blanks as I talk about it. So the first one says the sample space describes all of the possible outcomes of an event. So we are going to write out here the word outcomes. All right. And because I'm using my mouse to write, because I still have not bought a pen and I'm at home. It looks a little sloppy, so that'd probably be the only word that I write. So the word is outcomes. That looks terrible. Okay. Sample space can be displayed with lists, tables, or tree diagrams to determine the probability of simple here, or compound events. So spell the word simple for the first blank. Ooh. Or compound. Ooh, that's terribly. Or compound events. So simple or compound events. So let's read the first example. Number 1 says, the New England Patriots and the Dallas Cowboys are playing. What are the possible outcomes of the game? So what could happen at the end of the game? All right. What is something that could happen? The New England Patriots are playing and the Dallas Cowboys are playing. What are the possible outcomes? Okay. The Patriots could win. Yeah. And the Cowboys could win. Yeah. All right. One is going to lose, one is going to win. That's the possible outcomes. All right. So remember that a sample space describes all of the possible outcomes of the event. So we know that the New England Patriots could win or the Dallas Cowboys could win. So that's what you need to write. So you write Patriots can win or the Cowboys can win. That's what I want you to write. All right. So let's move on to number 2. So it says a number cube is rolled. A number cube is rolled. What are the possible outcomes? So think about a cube or a dice. A lot of you call it a dice. And if I have a dice, what are the possible outcomes that I could roll? Think about that. Okay. Somebody, you can raise your hand. 1 is something that I could roll. What's something else? Okay. 2, 3, 4, 5, and of course 6. What about 7? Could I roll 7? Well, if 7 was on my die, but it is not because typically you're going to only see the numbers 1 through 6. Okay. So in this situation, my possible outcomes are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So I hope you guys are getting an understanding of what sample space is. Sample space describes all of the possible outcomes of an event. All right. And I show you 2 examples. These are 2 different events. 2 different events. All right. So we are going to, on number 3, create a list or a table. And number 4, create a list or a table. Now, this is super important that you pay attention on how to do this because I am not going to type. I don't think I can type. I'm pretty sure I can't. It would be nice if I could, but I cannot type. So you guys just really pay attention. I'll use the pen to kind of write some stuff, but I'm not going to write everything just because it's sloppy looking. So for number 3, it says, for breakfast, Jamie can choose from cereal, eggs, or a muffin. She also can drink coffee, orange juice, or milk. What are the possible outcomes? How many total outcomes are possible? All right. So how many choices of foods does she have? 3. Absolutely. So she has 3 possible choices of food and how many drinks? 3. All right. Okay. So we now know that there are 3 choices of drinks, there are 3 choices of foods. But what the first question asks us is what are the possible outcomes? So what we know is she can have 1 food choice and 1 drink choice. So if you think about it, and one thing I like to do is start off with the first of each choice. So I would do cereal and coffee. I'm just do the letter. Okay, so I've got cereal and coffee. All right, so I can mark coffee off my list, and now I can do cereal with orange juice. Okay, so these are my choices. All right, then I have cereal with milk. All right, so starting off right there, that's 3 different choices, and I've only chose cereal. Okay, let's go to another color. All right, I'm done with cereal, so I'm going to cross that out so I know I've hit it. I'm going to start with my eggs. For eggs, I'm going to have the same choices. I have coffee. Then I have eggs with orange juice. So I'm just doing the first letter, as you can see. And then eggs with milk. So you guys should see my pattern that I have going on. I'm choosing all 3 drinks per food choice. Okay, I'm marking off eggs, and I'm going to muffins. So now I have muffins, and I can have muffins with coffee. I can have muffins with my orange juice. And then I can have muffins with my milk. All right. So if we look at that, these are the possible outcomes. And then the last question says, how many total outcomes are possible? Well, if we look, we know that there are 9. And another way that you can look at it is I had 3 food items times 3 drink items. And that would give me 9 as well. All right. So that is how we show our list or our table. Okay, I want you to pause and I want you to talk about number 4. Number 4 says, at registration, a student can select from Spanish or German class, as well as art, music, or theater. What are the possible outcomes and how many total outcomes? So take a moment and pause. And I want you guys to tell me how many outcomes you see. All right, so hit pause. All right. And now that you guys have counted, you should have said that there were 6 possible outcomes. 6 possible outcomes. There was a Spanish and German class, and then there was music, art, and theater. Okay. So Spanish and art, Spanish and music, Spanish and theater, then German and art, German music, German theater. So 6 possible choices. All right. Or possible outcomes. All right, let's move on. So now you guys understand how a table will look. And now I want to move on to a tree diagram. So for a tree diagram over, let's see, let me scroll down a little bit. Yeah, I knew that was going to happen. Okay, I'm not going to scroll down. All right, so for a tree diagram at the bottom, it says a fair coin. So a fair coin is balanced as we can get it. It's just a coin with heads or tails. All right, so a fair coin is tossed 3 times. What are the possible outcomes? And how many total outcomes are possible? So what are the possible outcomes? That's been our first question. And then our second question, how many outcomes are possible? So how many, or not how many, what are the outcomes? We know we've got a coin and it tells us that it's tossed 3 times. All right. So a tree diagram would look something similar to this. So if I hit heads, okay, my possible outcome will look like this, okay? Heads or tails. That's my first one, okay? Heads or tails. That's just what it is, all right? And then it says it's tossed 3 more times, okay? So let's say it hits heads. My next outcome is going to be heads or tails, right? Okay. So that's possible. And then let's say it does it again and it goes to tails. Okay. Then those possible outcomes would be heads to tails. This is called a tree diagram. What if it went to this heads? Would that be a possible outcome? Absolutely. then heads. So you should see a pattern going on here. For every toss, there's a heads and a tails outcome. It's possible. Okay. All right. Same thing here. What if I did tails the first time? Okay. Then the next time I'm going to do heads, then tails. All right. And then for that final toss, the third toss, same thing, heads and tails. All right. So your tree diagram should look way better than mine. Okay. So heads here. Now I'm overlapping. Tails here. I should start it at the top. All right, so if I look, how many heads and tail possible outcomes do I have? Well, my first toss, I have 2. Okay, my first toss, and let me change the color. My possible outcome was heads or tails. Ooh. Okay, my second toss, what was my possible outcome? It was heads or tails. Okay, it's either heads or tails. That's just my possible outcome, guys. And then my final toss, it was heads or tails. So 2 by 2 by 2. And if we look, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. All right. Oh, it looks like chicken scratch. I'm sorry. Okay. So our tree diagram, I hope that you're understanding how this works. We literally are listing possible outcomes. All right, 7th graders. So like I said, I know the handwork is terrible. I mean it, but you guys get the point. We're going to move to the second page real quick. And on the second page, we're just practicing a little bit more. But remember, I told you that it's really all about finding those outcomes, finding what is possible. Okay. So 6 through, 9. I'm going to read. You know what? I think I want you to try to do all of them by yourself. And at the bottom, remember, it does say to summarize your lesson. I'm going to read 6 and just to make sure that we're all on the same page. So we're going to create a list. So 6 and 7 is a list. Okay. And then it says use the information to answer the question. So number 6 says Amanda will roll a number cube and flip a coin. Ooh. So we've got 2 different things going on. So they're going to roll a number cube and then flip a coin. All right. Let's keep reading. If Amanda rolls the number cube once and flips the coin once, then what are the possible outcomes in which the number cube lands on an odd number? Wow. So that's a lot of information. This is key here. Okay. And let me read this second part. If Amanda rolls the number cube once, so she's only rolling that dice once, and then she flips the coin once, then what are the possible outcomes in which the number cube lands on an odd number? So let's think about our dice. We know it's 1 through 6. Okay. So what are the odd options there? Let's go ahead and label those. We know 1 is an option. We know 3 is odd. We know 5 is odd. And those are our only ones from 1 through 6. Okay. So if she rolled one time, the odds of rolling an odd number would be, there are 3 different odd numbers. Okay. All right. But now we've got to think about, she rolls that dice, but she also has to flip a coin. So let's think about the possibilities. What if one time she rolls the dice? What could be a possibility? Well, we know if it's a coin, heads is a possibility. And we know another possibility would be tails. Okay, so out of 1, how many opportunities do we have? 2 right there. Because it may be heads and tails. So how could you list this? And this is my tree diagram. And remember, they want us to list it. So I'm going to show you. You could do 1, comma, H. So she could roll 1 and hit heads. She could roll 1 and hit tails. So this is the listing way. Okay. I start off with tree diagram because for me, I'm a visual person, so this makes sense for me. Okay. All right. For 3, I'm going to have this same connection. All right. So 3, she can roll heads or she can roll tails. And this is my list. And then finally, you guys should have the idea now. Tails and then heads. Ooh. And I always try to keep them the same, and this time I flipped them for some reason. So you guys tell me, what are the possible outcomes and how many possible outcomes are there? These are our possible outcomes, and there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right. So there's 2 choices per odd number. Okay. So now that you've got kind of an idea how that looks, you are going to do the rest, and you're going to work with a partner and check your work. Then remember, summarize today's lesson. So I want to see a summary of what did we talk about today. All right. And we will practice this on tomorrow as well. So you guys have a good day.